Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's nice to be here again. Alhamdulillah. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Hope you guys are having a blessed Friday. SubhanAllah, with so many, SubhanAllah, so many world events and world news happening. There's always, SubhanAllah, so many things in the world for us to be making dua for, things for us to be grieving for, things for us to be grateful for. We're always, SubhanAllah, always reflecting on things all the time. So, like I said, things for us to be always things to be making dua for. SubhanAllah, let's say that, and at the same time, things to be grateful for at the same time as well. So on that note, who are we talking about today? To be taking inspiration from, it's actually quite beautiful. You were just mentioning, we just heard, SubhanAllah, about the advertisement for December 24th. There's going to be a wonderful program on Isa alayhi salam. And now, who was the mother of Isa alayhi salam was Maryam. And who was her mother? That's who we're going to talk about. And it just, SubhanAllah, when we think about generations, it's pretty amazing and cool, for lack of better words, for lack of sophisticated words, but we could just, layman term here. It's really cool, SubhanAllah, when you think of, in everything that you do, we'll back it up. When everything that you do, when you plant a seed of goodness, you never know how far it's going to go. You never know how far it's going to go. So look at the mother of Maryam and her ihsan, the goodness that she did in her intentions, in her niyyah, in her du'as, and her dedication and her follow through with her dedication. Look what it led to. It led to a righteous child of Maryam, and then a righteous offspring of Isa alayhi salam, and what's to come of that? And he's going to return back onto this earth. I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's just mind-boggling. So getting ahead of myself, but that's who we're going to talk about today. The grandmother of Isa alayhi salam, the mother of Maryam. SubhanAllah, so amazing. So what's her name? What is her name? Her name is Hinna bintu Faqud. Excuse me. Hinna bintu Faqud, and she's also referred to in the Qur'an as the mother of, the wife of Imran, Ali Imran, the family of Imran. She is the wife of Imran, SubhanAllah. So why are we talking about her? We can gain inspiration from her, SubhanAllah. Like I said, we could take many examples. And I start off by mentioning the example of ihsan, in her dedication. And I think it's really important too, because oftentimes when we take, inspiration from greatness, from dedication, sometimes we talk about the greatness and we talk about the inspiration, and we forget sometimes to focus on the difficulty. And it's important to talk about the difficulty. Why? Because look, we're living in this life that is a life of difficulty. There is a life, we are living in a life of test. And when we're in a life of test, we need to be reminded that it's not easy. Yes, we have blessing, alhamdulillah. Yes, there's plenty of things to be grateful for. We have plenty of happy moments. But within those happy moments, there is difficulty, there is test. And when we only look to inspiration, we're like, yeah, okay, she was able to do a great job. That's because she was, the mother of a prophet. She was the wife of so-and-so. Yeah, that's because back then we'll make all these excuses of what. We'll make all these excuses for why it was easy for them to have patience. We'll make all these excuses for why it was easy to do a good job. No, we want to say, no, they did a good job. They had faith. They had hope. And guess what? They experienced a lot of difficulty as well. That's why when we talk about inspiration and faith and hope, we want to say, let's talk about it within the context of difficulty as well. That way, when we face difficulty, we can say, look, I know we're going through a difficult time. We're going to do our best. And at the same time, we can also try to, as much as we can, try to still have hope, try to still make dua, try to still be grateful at the same time, because those things that I just mentioned, the hope, the faith, and the dua, and the positivity and the gratitude, that's what's going to pull us out. Of course, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Allah is the one, but we have to believe in Allah. We have to have that faith, but it's that negativity. It's that loss of trust. It's that loss of faith and the loss of hope during that difficulty that makes it harder for us to do those things that we need to do to pull us forward. So we're going to talk about Hinna bint Faqud. What's her story? So we don't know a lot about her in the Quran, but what we do know, subhanAllah, it's pretty inspiring. We know that she was married to Imran and alayhi salam, and that they were, subhanAllah, a very pious family. He was a very pious man. And they were trying to have children for a long time. They were older in age. They hadn't had children prior to this point. She was making dua for a long time to have children. And alhamdulillah, she had finally found out that she was expecting a child, again in older age. And subhanAllah, she was very grateful, of course. And after she had found out that she was expecting a child, shortly after that, her husband passed away. Subhanallah. This is the, I want to make sure that I don't say this out of order. No, I went out of order. She was very grateful when she found out she was pregnant. What did she say? And this is noted in verse number 35 in Surah Al Imran. That's that's Surah number 3. She says, remember, and the ayah is about remember when the wife of Imran said, my Lord, I dedicate what is in my womb entirely to your service. So accept it from me. You alone are truly the all-hearing, all-knowing. SubhanAllah. So in her gratitude of expecting a child that she's been waiting for, she was so grateful that she dedicated this child to the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is her gratitude. She dedicated to the service of Allah. Now, shortly after finding out that she was expecting, then her husband passed away. The first note here that is very interesting to note, after finding out that her husband passed away, she did not go back on that dedication that she made to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's called nadhr, that when you say, because, when my child is born, I'm going to dedicate this child. And that was acceptable, subhanAllah. Of course, even in present day time, it is difficult, when a spouse, passes away, it is difficult to raise a child. And even more so maybe in that time. Well, we could make an argument either way. She did not go back and say, no, it is difficult now being on my own. I'm going to change. Allah knows best. Allah knows that it's going to be difficult for me. I'm going to change the dedication. I'm going to change my dua. I'll do something different. It'll be difficult for me to part with my child now that my husband has also parted ways with me. SubhanAllah. So that is the first thing to note, that in the face of difficulty, Hinna radiallahu anha, she did not change her commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is very noteworthy, subhanAllah. And I thought that was something interesting to point out. The second interesting thing, subhanAllah, to note in time of difficulty, that when Hinna gave birth, when the mother of Maryam alayhi salam gave birth, she gave birth to a daughter. Okay, so and in the very next ayah in Surah Al Imran, she notes that, oh, I gave birth to a daughter. Now, somebody, maybe a lay person, may think, oh, that this was something, she saw this as negative. Maybe she wished she had a boy for the love of boys. We love boys and girls. Okay, alhamdulillah. There's no difference in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for, a love of a boy or a girl. However, again, when this is reading now the English translation, when she delivered, she said, my Lord, I have given birth to a girl, and Allah fully knew what she had delivered. And the male is not like the female. This is what she declared. The male is not like the female. I have named her Mary, and I seek your protection for her and her offspring from Shaitan the accursed. SubhanAllah. What's interesting here, she says, my Lord, I have given birth to a girl. And of course, Allah knew what she had given birth to. And the male is not like the female. It is not out of dismay. She is not upset that she had a girl. Now, according to the Judaic law at that time, men could be dedicated to full service. It was it was customary for men to be able to be dedicated and or be dedicated to service to the temple full time. That was what was customary. So it was not customary for women to be dedicated full time to the service inside the temple. And even then, subhanAllah, she did not change Hinna, the mother of Maryam, alayhi salam. She did not change her dedication. She didn't say, oh, subhanAllah, I have a girl now. What am I going to do? oh well, I guess I'm gonna do something different now. No, she stuck to it. And not only that, she even named her daughter, which in Aramaic, mer is I believe it's what I had it written down here. Let me again, sorry, going back to my notes. Mary, sorry, it means Rabbi, which is my Lord, and M is female servant. So she even named her child after her dedication, after her commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is, basically female servant of Allah, which she had dedicated before her child was born, which is completely amazing. Her husband passed away. She kept her dedication. It was not customary to have a female dedicated to service. And at this time, it's Beit al-Maqdis, completely amazing. That was not customary at that time. She's still committed to dedicating her child. And she even named her child. Maryam is named female servant of Allah. So amazing, subhanAllah. Look at that dedication, that despite the difficulty, despite the unknown factor, and I want to hang on this moment for a second, because this is a big deal. When I said we can argue, is it more difficult in older times when a spouse passes away in terms of, finance and the unknown factor of raising a child, or just, security and whatnot, or modern day times? I don't think that matters for now, but we just know that there's a lot of uncertainty, and that is very difficult for anybody dealing with loss. That is a big deal emotionally, and of course physically, and all of those other things concerning loss. That Henna, she dealt with that uncertainty and still moved forward. Okay, she dealt with that financial and that emotional uncertainty, and she still moved forward with the dedication of her child. We have a lot of difficulty in this current day and age with uncertainty in general. And even though we have a lot more, in a sense, even though with technology, I'll say simple things like even like the weather, for example. Of course, Allah knows everything, but we have a lot more information at our fingertips with the smartphone, with with internet, a lot of real-time information, the sharing of information. We just have a lot more access to information. We have a lot more updates. Let's just say in general, we're more well informed than several hundred years ago or 7,000 years ago. We're still uncomfortable with uncertainty. It really riles us up. We don't feel comfortable with it. And so when we leave our trust with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're always going to be more settled. We're still going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but we just keep reminding ourselves, Allah knows best. I'm going to put my trust in Allah. I'm going to do whatever it is I can that's going to keep me in the best situation that I can, but I'm going to leave the rest up to Allah, because that's all I can do. I'm going to do all that I can do. And that's what Hinna radiallahu anha did. Subhanallah. That's what she did when her husband passed away. She still, she had the child, she kept the dedication. And when she made the dedication, and it's not customary to dedicate a child, a female, to the da'wah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she was going to figure it out. She didn't have a plan. She didn't have A, B, C, D. I'm going to send an email to so-and-so. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to, there was no plan, but she was going to figure it out. She put her tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So can we do that today, even though we have so many instant means of communication? We have so many more ways of being able to figure things out at our fingertips. And yet I feel like we have, in general, a much, lower tolerance for that uncertainty. And I'm not talking about clinical levels of anxiety. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in general that wanting to have that high level, that high sense of control. When we relinquish that, when we remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who created the entire world and universe and the whole system, and he created all of creation, and he created us, and he created, subhanallah, he created everything. And he knows what we're going to do. And he even created the concept of free will, and he created everything. Or gave us the ability of free will and everything. And still then we're so caught up in like, I have to know what's going to happen. And I have to know, who I'm going to marry. And I have to know when I'm going to get this job, and if I'm going to get a job, and if I'm going to be able to have this risk, and what's going to happen. we're so caught up in being able to know and definitively, and we feel so lost without that certainty that we miss out on the happiness. We miss out on those small moments of joy. We miss out on being able to see the blessings that Allah is giving us right now in this exact moment. When we're able to recognize that Allah is in charge, and when we're able to recognize that we have blessings that we can touch right now, we can feel so much more content. And then it'll be easier for us to manage those difficulties, just like Henna did, with so much less. She was able to have so much trust, I want to say, with so much less certainty than we do now with technology. That's, you know, if you were to say we have so much more certainty in a sense because of technology and our ability to communicate so much more quickly than Henna did back then. There's so much lesson for us to learn in that when you are able to put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, despite difficulty, despite that severe uncertainty, instability in life, you can lead a much happier life. And not only that, the barakah, the blessing that you reap from that high level of trust, it's subhanAllah, it's exponential. So let's talk about that now. The result, the barakah, the blessing. Henna put her trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She remained steadfast in her dedication. Look what was the result of that. You had an amazing role model in Maryam, alayhi salam. I mean, she was young. She was in the masjid. She was dedicated. She was in her prayer. And when subhanallah, when Zakaria walked in on her and he's seeing fruit out of season, where does it come from? You know, you don't have transportation means back then, flying fruit out of season and means of growing fruit and bringing it from different countries. You don't have those means back then. And he's saying, where did you get this from? And she said, Allah provides, at a very young age. And then subhanallah, interacting with the angel of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when the messenger comes to her and says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has glad tidings for you, that you have a child in your womb. And she says, how is this possible? And then he gives her the news that Allah makes it possible. And then she goes out on her own, subhanallah, and even retreats for a while away from society on her own as a young woman, and gives birth on her own, and is instructed on how to subhanallah, nourish herself. Maryam alayhi salam. She does all of that, and then how to face the people on her own when she knows she's going to be questioned. Where did this child come from? What have you done? You come from a good family. What have you done, O Maryam? She is told what to do, and she's going to do all of that on her own. That is the barakah. That is the seed. That is the result of the ihsan, of the dedication, of the trust of her mother. And then you have Isa alayhi salam, upright and upstanding. Subhanallah, a role model, subhanallah, in the arms of his mother, defending her. He is a sign who subhanallah, clears her name. How is Maryam's name going to be cleared? She doesn't know. Allah doesn't tell her, don't worry, I'm going to clear your name. There's no ayah that's going to be revealed. It's a child. She doesn't know that her baby's going to speak. She's just instructed, don't say anything. And then subhanAllah, Isa is the one that is clearing her name, clearing her reputation. And he is who he is, and he's a prophet, subhanAllah. And he endures, and he is patient, and he teaches. And he is alive until today, and he will come back, subhanAllah. And his book is still open. So all of his good deeds, subhanAllah, everything, subhanAllah, it is the result of the barakah, of the patience, of the dua of his grandmother, Henna bint Faqud. And even the dua that she made when she asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh, bless my child and her dhurriya and her offspring from the accursed shaitan. That's what it means when we say, you know, put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know it's hard because we're all going through it. Believe me, I'm smiling in front of you and I'm saying these words of encouragement, but we all go through those dark moments. when it's difficult and you do good things and you're like, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to do these positive things, or I'm not going to do this again. You get hurt. We go through those dark moments. Believe me, we all do. But we need to hear these encouraging stories. We need to hear these great, these great reminders of great people like Henna, who did great things despite or in spite these moments of difficulty, moments of instability, moments of uncertainty, when she did not have that full control, to remind us that not only did she make it, not only did she remain steadfast, but she planted the seeds and she reaped so much reward. And we got to see it. She didn't get to see it. We got to see. And generations and millions got to see the reward of what she did. SubhanAllah, the reward of her efforts and her patience and her du'as. So that's the reminder for us. So how do we take this back to us? What does this mean? So for example, when we're going through difficult times, and I'm sure many of us have done this, or actually, no, not only when we go through difficult times, but it starts off usually that we want something and we say, oh Allah, if I pass this test, like let's say an actual, an exam, or if I get this thing, or if I get into this program, or maybe if this person accepts my proposal, or whatever it is that we're asking for, I'm going to start doing this fard. I'm going to start praying on time more. I'm going to connect back with this broken relationship in my family. I'm going to start doing this thing. Or maybe I'm going to stop doing this bad habit. Or maybe I'm going to stop doing this sin. And then a difficulty happens. I didn't get this thing that I've really been waiting for. And this thing that I really wanted to get, it was going to change my life. Come on, Allah, why didn't you give it to me? This was going to be the thing. Why didn't you give it to me? That could be the difficulty, or something else happened. That's the challenge. And now it's hard for me. This is a perfect example of how we can use Hinna bint Faqud's example of, you made that dedication, you're really excited, you pumped, your charge. Yes, Allah, if I get this thing, and maybe you got it even. It's not just that you didn't get it. Maybe you got it, what it was that you asked for. Just like in Hinna's case, you got that baby and you made that promise. And now that you got the promise, now that you got what it is that you asked for, you don't want to fulfill your promise. How can you fulfill it despite the difficulty that you're going through? And those are real, those are difficult. Could be like a really financial struggle that you're going through. And sometimes those difficulties are long. It's not just a few months or a few weeks. Sometimes it's years. Those are difficult, or illness or relationship trouble. Those are difficult to go through. Sometimes there are legal issues, right? And so again, I'm not taking these situations and saying that they're light and it's easy, but what we're saying here is, when we take the steps and we handle these difficulties to the best of our ability, and understand that you take them by putting your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you continue and strive to put your to have faith in him, to continue your ibadah, and doing your best to fulfill your ibadat, of course, like your fasts and your prayers. And on top of that, surrounding yourself with people who are going to remind you to keep steadfast. And on top of that, trying to put it in your sadaqah. And on top of that, trying to be grateful for what it is that you have. Because that's what is able to help you keep positive. And when you're positive, it's a positive feedback loop. When I'm remembering what it is that I have, it reminds me I should be so grateful. What am I doing wasting any moment not rushing to fulfill my requirements to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And what am I doing wasting any moment and not wanting to do even more? And what am I doing in not, hanging around people that are going to remind me to do the best? What am I doing in having su'adhan dhan and having like a negative view of Allah? No, I know that I didn't get this thing. And I know this test is taking a long time, but I know Allah promised that he knows what's best for us. I know that Prophet Muhammad told us that the believer is the one that knows that when something good happens to us, he is grateful and that is better for him. And that when something bad happens, that the believer is patient and that thing was better for him as well. That delay or not getting it at all, that thing that you wanted was going to be better for you. Subhanallah. That's hard. And I'm sure some of us, maybe because it's a length of time, or maybe it's just having, certain life experiences, maybe we've seen that in our lifetime. Maybe we've seen, yes, I know for sure, alhamdulillah, that thing that I wanted so badly, thank God I didn't get it, that I never got it, or that I got it later. And some of us, maybe it's a little bit too early, but you've seen enough stories, or you've heard stories in the Quran, or you've heard enough people maybe in your life that maybe you'll get an ounce of some of that yaqeen, of some of that certainty that for sure, okay, I believe it. I believe it. Inshallah. So it's that getting through the difficulty with the faith, with the iman, with the gratitude, and with keeping up with your fulfilling your duties with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that will not only get you through the storm, but that you'll see you will reap the reward of not only just making it through the storm, but in fulfilling, even doing even better, doing even more. That showing that fortitude and showing that dedication, like the mother of Maryam. We hope to sometimes we're just sludging through the storm, and that's okay. That sometimes we just need to make it through, and other times we're excelling and we're doing even better. We're fulfilling our promises and we're doing even more. So whatever we can do to either just barely make it through or really excel, we're going to see that we're going to reap the reward, inshallah.